Let's quickly look at the symbolic notation method, which is also known as the relative method. In the previous video, we've already talked about the absolute method or the octa notation method. So if you haven't watched that video, you will be advised to go watch that first. Alright, so for now, we're focusing on the symbolic notation method. And for that aspect, this is actually the syntax for it, which has three parts. You can see these are the three parts there. Alright. So the three parts are the access class, the operator, and the access type. Now, access class just trying to say the category of people you want to give access rights to. So this U means the user in terms of the owner or the admin. Okay. While the G means the group, while the O means other. While the A means everybody, both the owner, both the group, both the other users. Okay. So that is what A does. Now, operator, the plus means you are adding access to whatever group or whoever wants to give the access to. The negative sign means you are removing access rights. Okay, while the equal to sign means you are setting an exact access. What I mean by setting an exact access, let's say for example now, for the aspect of the other users, I want them to only execute the file. That means the read and the write will be off. That means it's only the executing that will be on. Okay, so that means I'm making it exact. So I want only one thing to on, which is only that aspect to on, the read aspect. So that's what it means. So the access type is just the usual, the read, write, and execute. So just the way this read, write, and execute means in terms of files, which we've talked about in the octa notation, is same definition in terms of files, and in terms of directory is the same definition in terms of directory, just like the octa notation parts. Remember the octa notation directory, in terms of directory aspects, the read means ls command being enabled. The write means us being able to create a file, to move a file, to delete a file. That's what the write means. While the execute means like, well, I think using the cd command. Okay, so this also applies to the symbolic method. So those definition also applies to the symbolic method in terms of directory also. Right, the only thing about the symbolic is just the different form of write up. You can see this one looks different. We aren't using any binary here, so it's just a different form of write up. That's just the only difference, but their definitions are still the same thing as the previous video. So you really need to understand the previous video, so you can this one can be very easy for us to do quickly. So like what I said in the previous video, it's very important to know that notation very well. Okay, because this symbolic method is just like a shortcut method of doing something fast, or a specific thing fast, without the need of trying to then break it down in decimal and trying to convert them to base 10, those stuff. So if you want to just quickly change one particular feature in maybe a user, you can still use the symbolic method fast without the stress of doing audio calculation for both the owner and the group and the user. Wherever I can just go straight to the user and change what you want to change directly. So that's just like the advantage of the symbolic method. Okay, those two work hand in hand. So you just need to know those two methods. All right. So this is the syntax. You have the ch mode. Then you are going to put in the access class. Then you can put in the operator. Then you can put in the access type, and then the file name or the directory or the file direct or the directory name. So the new directory that you want the operation to work on. So it depends on what you are working on. I believe we are very much familiar with this ch mode u plus x. So most of us might never know what we are just doing. What we are just doing, just following what everybody are doing ch mode, doing ch. So if you found another category, don't worry, your deliverance has come to you today. So you surely understand what those stuff means that you are doing since. Okay. So to add permissions, now what this ch mode does, ch mode u plus x. Let me just explain how this answer came to be. I think it's the best way for you to really understand it. So let's say, for example, you want to, from the way this question is now, we want to add permission for owner. Remember, the owner here is labeled as you. Okay, so we want to add permission for owner. We want to add permission for owner to execute a file. So we want to add permission for owner. Owner is you. So also want to add permission, add here, want to add access, which is plus, right? So I'm going to put plus. So I want to add access to it. Okay, I want to add the access to what? The owner, which is replaced as you, which means the owner. Okay, so we want to add permission for the owner to execute a file. So execute is letter X. Sometimes I'm going to put X there. So I'm adding access to executing permissions to our owner. Okay. So and the name of the file in the current directories, and the name of the file is my file. So then, as usual, we have to start it up with the chmod. I want it to be bold. I don't know why. Chmod u plus x. Okay, so that is how that answer came to be. I believe we understand it now. Okay, so we are adding a permission. That's why there's this plus here, and we are adding it to the owner. That's why we have u there. So remember the format. The format is the access class must come first, and the access class here. These are the access class here, and the question says we want to focus on the owner. So the access class, the owner. That's why we have the u. The next one is the operator. Whether I want to add or want to remove, we want to set it as exact. So we want to add permission. That's why there's a plus sign here. The next one is the access type that we want to add execute. That's why we have x next. So then the file name, which is my file. That's the name of the file name. So this is very, very explanatory enough, I believe. So similar example, looking at this next one. Here we have add permission for everyone. Let me see if I can. Okay. So I just want to show you how the results came to be now. So we want to add permission for everyone. Who are everyone? Everyone is this A, which means all. All means everyone also. It's just English. It's just simple English. Okay. So when we're talking about everyone, so we're going to say A. That's the first access class. So the next thing is the operator, right? And it will say add. So we are going to use plus next. So that's why there's a plus. So add permission for everyone to read. So read, our access type R read, which is the last part of our syntax here. So that's why there's R here. So you can then put the name of the file, which is my file, then do your chmod at the beginning. So that's how that answer came to be. Okay. So just an extra tip, like when you are dealing with all, or you are dealing with this A, everyone, you can choose to ignore putting the A and just put the plus out, just like another shortcut format. So it will still give you the same results. Okay. But when it deals with you, or it deals with group, or it deals with other user, you must still specify it. So only when you are dealing with all, you can choose to remove it like this. So these two are still like saying the same thing. All right. So before we just move on to the next examples, let's just play around with our terminal to really see what we are doing. So let us do ls-l. So let's focus on this first file. We have one file. That's the name of this file, this first file. So one-file. So if you're looking at this file, if you notice we have the read write and the read write for the group and the owner, but we don't have execute for neither of them. Okay. For the end user, for the other users, we have not. All of them are locked. Okay. So let's say, for example, now if I choose to want to enable read for the other user, now using the symbolic method, I'll just say chmod. Other users, I think other user is represented as what is that letter again? Okay, O for other users. Okay, so O. And just place it as O now, so it won't cause any confusion. So other users is represented by O. So I'll just write other users. Then I want to add permission, right? So plus, I'm adding a permission now. I want it to be read. I want it to be able to read. So I'm going to put R. Then what file should it apply to? I want to apply to that first file, which is one file. Enter. So let's do ls-l again, and let's see the permissions there. If you notice now we have R here now. Before we didn't have that R. So this is how we just do it fast. Instead of us doing it without the octa notation way, that octa notation way, I will have to do the decimal of each of them first. Of each of the theory. I think the same value for this first one we did here. If I want to do it without that octa way, or in short, absolute method. So if I want to use that absolute method for this aspect, so what I will just do is that since we have read, write enabled, then the execution is off, which means we have 110. Okay, so 110, that's 110 to base 10, that's 6, and for the group we also have 6. While for this last one we have 100. So that means I think 100, that's 100 base 2. to the base 10. That will give us, I think we've solved that before. 100 will give us 4. Okay, so what it means is that I can choose to say chmod 6641 file, and it will give me the same results, exactly the same result as chmod o plus r1 file does. So you can see you can choose to use either method. But if you notice, using the absolute method, which is the first method, seems more stressful because we are trying to make sure we evaluate the decimal, the binary for each of the other ones also. Whereas when we are using the chmod for the symbolic, we just go straight to focusing on the user alone, which is the O for the other users. Then we'll put only the R that we need. We don't need to be doing any calculation in our mind. We want to know which one is 1 and 0, 0, you get. So that's just the advantage of this chmod. Just for a, we want to add a one unique feature or two unique feature in a particular file that you want to enable for the access rights, okay? Or you want to remove one, or you want to remove two, so it makes things faster in a way than using the binary. But if you want to like really sit down and analyze or start afresh, or want to give a real permission, then you can choose to use the binary method. So that one is much faster of doing it once. So that's just it about that. Let's just add W also for this first file. So I want the other user to also be able to write. So this time I'm going to say chmod, since we're dealing with other users, so that is still O for other users. So I want them to write, so plus write. Okay, so I want it to still be the first file. So let's do ls-l. You can see now the write as shown there. So everything now, all group admin, both the admin, both the group and both the user have the same rights, okay, and neither of them can execute. Okay, so let me just put execution feature for this file one. For, well, okay, let me just this time around, let me do it for only the group. So I'll say chmod. So since for the group is G, so for the group I want to add access rights of execution, that's X. So I'll put which file I want it to apply to, or which directory. Okay, for now we're just focusing on file. So I'll click enter. So let's do ls-l. Okay, so you can see here we have executes, and it's even made this place colored. So we have execute, so the group can execute, only the group can execute, but the admin cannot execute and the end user cannot execute. Now if you want to remove it, that's when you then use the minus. Don't forget the subtraction is used to remove access rights. So let's just use that part. So if I want to remove, I'm just going to say again chmod. For the group I want to remove, which is minus, I want to remove that execute that I just placed there. So let me remove it. So let's do ls-l. So you can see everything is back to normal again. So I think that's just how to play around with it. So you can see it's not actually hard at all. Then we can still do some extra things, like let me do something like now I want to remove the rights, the ww that is in the group and the other user. I want to remove both the w for each of them once. So I'll just say chmod. So for the group, I want to make the changes affect the group, and I want it to affect other user, right? So that's why I wrote G and O together. Okay, so we want to remove, that's why there is negative here. So I want to remove the W, the right for both of them. So I want it to apply to the file one. So let's do it again, ls-l. You can see now, see the difference, see the former one, we have RW, but now we have only R. You can see we don't have any W there. So you can see you can even do for groups at once without doing it one by one, just like the way we did here. I just add the G and the O for group and user, so it will apply to both of them. So I'm removing both of them their rights permissions. So that's it. The same way you want to add the right permission back, you just need to put the same G and O, then put plus W, then to add it back. Okay, so let's just add executes for both of them at once. So I just say, okay, group and other user, I want to make them executable, and in which file or in which directory. So let's just focus on the file one. Enter. So ls-l. You can see we have the execute now for each of them. So we have the execute for each of them. So that's just how it works. All right. So all these things we are doing with files, the same thing we can do with directory. But don't forget that the definition in terms of directory for read, for write, for execute is different. Okay, just understand that the definition is different when it comes to dealing with directory. But the same format of doing those changes is still the same format. Nothing changes in that. Okay. So just keep that at the back of your mind. You can go to previous lecture to really understand that aspect where I explained that difference well in depth in the previous video. So I think that's it about this. Let me go back to my notes. So which other examples are here? Okay, let's just look at the examples. So this one, we have to remove. So when it comes about removing something, remember you have to use the negative side. So that's why I'll put a negative there. So we want to remove read and write. Now this one wants to remove two permissions. So that's why I'll put minus R and W. So we want to remove read and write for group and other users. That's why we wrote G and O, which is for group and other users. So don't forget the format of arrangement. Format of arrangement remains that you have to put the access class first. No matter how the question is twisted, follow this arrangement. The access class must come first, then the operator, then the access type. Okay, so that's it here. So the access class, which is the group and the other user, came first, then the operator, which is want to remove. That's how we use minus. So what are we remove? We want to remove read and write. So we wrote the W and RW. So you can see that's just how to go about that. So the same concept with this, to remove write permission. Remember, remove write permission, which means minus W. Okay, I want to add execute, that means plus X. Remember, execute is X. So I want to do it for all users. That is why A. So we started with A for the all user. So we want to remove W, want to remove the write permission, and we want to add the execute. That's why we have plus X. So you can see how we can maneuver many ways to do many different operations. Okay. So that's just it. It doesn't matter if minus W comes first or plus X comes first. It doesn't really matter. It will still give you the same thing. Even if you say A plus X minus W, it will still give you the same thing as A minus W plus X. All right. Okay, so let's go. So you could also use the exact form. Okay, now speaking of exact form that I've already mentioned the other time. Now in this case, for the group and other user, we want to ensure. Let's see if I can do an example here. Let's do for. Okay, let's use this same file 1. Okay, so this same file 1. So now what I want to do in this same file, if you notice in this file 1, we have the read and read for group and other users. So we have that read permissions. In short, let me add write permission to it also. So group and other user, I want to add write permission to them. One file. So ls-l. Okay, good. So now assuming we have something like this now, but now I want to change the access rights for only the group and the user, and I want both of them to only write or only read or only execute. So when you see that only, that means instead of us doing it one by one or trying to off the rest, you can just do only and the rest will be off automatically for themselves. So what I'm saying is that if I do chmod so for the group and the other user, right, so we want to put it an exact permission. So we want both of them to only be executable. That means the read and the write feature will be off for both of them. It's only executable that will work, or if you want it to be only write, or if you want it to be only read. All right, so that's just how to play around with this. So if you want it to be only read, that means the write and the execution will off automatically. So I'll put the name of the file. So let's do ls-l. If you notice now, everything, the write and execute is off. It's only the read that is enabled. So that is what this equal to aspect is. So just like the definition there, to set exact access, okay, exact fixed access without others being involved. So that means others will be off. You want only one thing to be on. All right, so that's just what that equal to stuff can do. So let's move on. We have a few more examples. So to add execute permissions to the owner. Okay, now this one may look a bit tricky. Let me just solve it like naturally. So now to add execute permission to the owner and the group owner. Remember, we have the owner, which is you, and we have the group owner, which is G. So we want to add, which means plus. So we want to add execute, which means X. You can see the arrangement now. So we want to add, which means X, and it's execute. We want to add, which means plus. We want to execute, which is X. We want to add an execute permission to the owner. Owner is U, and the group is G, right? And read permission to other users. So when you say and, just massive and is like comma, okay? So you want to do some extra thing this time around, a special thing for another feature, which is for the other users. So the other users, which is O, you want to give them read. So that is how that answer came to be. All right, so we can just play around with it, twist it anyhow we want to twist it. Okay, so now to create a directory called my directory with permission 754, this one already given us the fixed permission in a relative, in an absolute format rather. Okay, so this time I want to create a directory that we have this feature at once while we are creating directory. Okay, so you now usually mkdir out to make a directory, then make sure you put this option of -m, then you cannot put the permission there. This permission here is obviously the this format for the absolute method, binary method. So since we have 754, it obviously means the 7 will mean we have 111, and the 5 will mean we have, I just have to convert 5 to base 2, from base 10 to base 2. I think we've already done something similar. So I think, okay, 5 means 101 and 4 means 100. So 5 means 101 and the 4 means 100. So that means the owner has all rights. That means the owner has read, write, execute. The group has read, it does not have rights, but it has execute. Then the other user have read, doesn't have write, doesn't have execute. So that's just the meaning of this 754. In terms of way getting to understand what the 754 means in the permission. So that's how I've broken it down. So just convert them from base 10 that they are, each of them, to base 2, making it in binary formats. Alright, so from the binary format, you can use it to put the on and off features for each of them, for the RWX for each of them. And see how very simple it is. So lastly, to add execute permission to all subdirectories of the current directory for the owner, the group owner, and all other users. So when we're talking about for the owner, group owner, and other users, it's something as saying all. They're just twisting the question. Okay, when you want to add execute permission for both the owner, the group, and other users, which are the only 3 access people that we can give permission, which means it's the same thing as saying all. So instead of us doing UGO, which will still work for us, so it's just like stress. So if I just clean this, I just put A, because it's still the same thing. So everybody wants to give that access to, so want them to be able to execute. Okay, now this asterisk means we are setting it for all the groups. No, on the norms we're supposed to write the group name here if it's a maybe new directories or something. So since we may have multiple directories in the current directory we are in, so instead of listing all the different directory, like maybe something like this, if we have multiple directories, my new directory 1, directory 2, it's like stress. So just like using your wildcards, so we talk about wildcards, so just put your asterisk, it will automatically give it for the rest of the directories. All right, so that's just how to play around all of that. So I think this is explanatory enough. All right, so don't forget, I think we've talked about symbolic, we've talked about the octal notation or the absolute method. So don't forget the meaning of when it comes to the file aspects, when it comes to the directory permission aspects. Remember the definition is different, but the format of creating them is still the same thing, nothing really changed. So I think in the last video we'll be looking at the aspect of file ownership and super user stuff. I think that one is still chilling in a way. So for this aspect, I think this is the major key thing about share permission we need to really know first. So thank you and have a lovely day. Bye.